G'day, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be having a look at this electronic digital caliper and what's inside and how it works. So it's just got a simple on-off button there, and as you slide it, it just updates obviously the measurement of what's in between this space here, or if you're trying to measure a hole, then you use these top two tips here and it just measures that difference there. It's got another button for zeroing, so you could zero it anywhere you want and then actually measure in the opposite. But the reason that's handy is if this is stored for a while, it gets uncalibrated. You just push it back to zero there and then press the zero button and it does it. It's got one more button up the top here just to switch between millimeters and inches. So if you want to measure in whichever imperial or metric, you just do that, click it, and you're done, and re-zero there. So this specific one, it just seems to be some sort of plastic. It does kind of feel like a really nice plastic, so maybe it does have some sort of reinforcing in there, but it's quite a nice, small, simple, easy one. And the update actually happens really quickly, and I think even if you slide it in and out quite a few times, it still doesn't actually lose. Yeah, there you go. See, it doesn't lose its calibration, so it's got to have a pretty neat mechanism for actually detecting that even when you do move it so quickly, considering this is a relatively budget option. Awesome. So it's actually just powered here by, what is this battery? A LR44H little button cell battery, and this would last quite a while because I don't imagine this would use up much power to actually run. Just got a simple LCD screen, and then it's going to have a couple of electronics for actually measuring. There'll be something on this track that as it runs across, it'll measure. But there's no actual visible screws or anything on this side. There is that little sticker on the back, so let's peel that off and see if there's screws underneath there. Cool, so that reveals a few screws, which we'll undo and have a look. But I also just noticed that on the back sticker, it actually does say carbon fiber composite digital caliper. So I doubt this is carbon fiber. This was, I don't remember, but it's quite cheap. But it will be some sort of composite, so some sort of mixture in that plastic. Okay, so it just seems to be made of these couple different parts. It's got this bottom, I don't know, this bottom assembly here, and this little bit of bent sheet metal just popped out. So I think that's just going to be a spring because that just sat on the bottom. I'll just put it back here now to show. So that sat on the bottom facing kind of upwards just to apply some of pressure onto this bit here. And I think the reason that's done, yeah, so that's okay. It's difficult there because it doesn't get held in place, but the reason that's done is just to provide some tension against it, so it actually holds it in place and it doesn't just wobble around everywhere. So if that wasn't there, this would just slide really freely and there you go, and just slide around and provide a lot less accurate measurement. But with the addition of this little bit of metal in there, it actually locks itself in place and provides that bit of resistance. So that's all that seems to be on this part. And then we've got interesting sort of array of few little exposed contacts, and then we've got a few more screws, so I'll actually just keep digging in there and then I'll have a good look at the PCB. Okay, so the PCB comes right out. We just have a plastic little case assembly, two buttons that actually, well, there's actually three buttons, so the third one got stuck on the PCB, but they're just little bits of rubber, little bits of soft rubber, and then on this side they'll just have some sort of a contact pad on that black surface there just to short this little track. Actually, I'll take this one out and they just pop out on their own. I'll put this on the side. Cool, so the PCB here that I was talking about is there's just this little zigzag track here of contacts. It would just press on top of that and short the two contacts together, and then the actual motherboard would just read that. There's really not that much to it on the PCB. We've just got this big sort of screen on the top, which I'll actually take off. A little just foam padding, I guess. It doesn't actually hold it in place, it doesn't glue it in place. It just sort of sits there. And then maybe this way is good to see, this little black bit of rubber, and then it just has a whole bunch of very fine little contacts in there, and then those contacts would contact onto these exposed contacts here, and then just bridge that gap between the PCB and the little LCD screen. So it's just a small little LCD screen, bits of glass sandwiched together there. All right, and then the actual PCB itself, very few components on it, but an actual pretty complex structure of those tracks. So we've got the battery terminal here. So the battery sits in there, positive and negative, and then that just looks like a couple of little capacitors, resistors, or maybe even little inductors, but I think they're just little capacitors there. And then we've got this little black blob of sort of a hard adhesive that's set over an actual chip. So a chip would have just been printed straight onto the board, and then this was just set on top to protect it. So out of that, we've got all these little tracks here coming into these exposed contacts, which go to the screen. And then we've got a few more coming out to the buttons, and then we've got this sort of complex array of little tracks here, and they'll have a whole bunch of little wires as well. So what that'll mean, those wires are just conduct the signal from this side of the PCB through to the other side of the PCB, which we can see here. So all these little wires come out in this sort of little alternating grid, and then come to these exposed little contacts here. So it might be quite hard to see. This is actually all really small. See if we can, there you go, that seems to focus pretty well. So that's it, that's all on here. I thought there was going to actually be more, or this done slightly differently, but that just means there must be something underneath here for it to actually sense, maybe even just little magnets or something like that, that this would then sense. So let's have a look, see if I can take this off and see what's there. Oh yeah, there we go. So that just seems to be a sticker. Oh, that's spooled up. All right, so this sticker here is just stuck directly onto this, and this just seems to be copper contacts. All right, there we go, it's focused. Just copper contacts arranged in this certain way. Wonder if there's anything under that. But I'm wondering if this board here maybe makes very thin little contact with, actually no, it would make contact because it's got this sticker over it. So this would have to be through some sort of capacitive coupling. So this would just generate a little bit of a field that would go down to the board, and then the microcontroller on here would just measure the difference in the potential difference of the voltages of these different levels. And this is going to be done in a certain way, so all these little exposed contacts here correspond to certain different little parts of this and measure that position. So this board being in different position over that bottom board is going to give a different signature, or going to give a different potential capacitance on however many points this is measuring. And by doing that, this might have just a little VLOOKUP table in there, or pre-calibrated bit that would then just determine what position it's actually at. That's why that makes sense actually, because as I slide it really quickly, it didn't seem to lose any steps and it didn't really give an error, which makes me think that even if it slid really fastly, it maybe doesn't count each step that it goes in between, but maybe just depending on the position, it would actually figure out where it is based on this. So these might be slightly different in shape or size to do so, or it might actually just do addition and subtraction as it moves in and out and just count that, and it might just actually run at a high frequency. But I just want to see what's underneath here, because it really just, yeah, okay, it really just seems like it's just a PCB glued onto this backing board. Yeah, there's nothing else underneath there. I don't really want to take all of this out because I don't want to break it, but I'll take out enough just to show you. So the underside there's nothing. It's just a really thin little PCB, and you can just see the tracks through, or the print on this side through that, and then that's just glued in place or held in place by just some double-sided tape. Cool, so that's pretty much it. This is actually really simple. I mean, it's the principle of it, I think, is simple, but the way it actually operates and getting it to be this precise is actually probably took quite a bit of engineering to get right. But once that was done, the manufacturing, this would be really simple, just a simple PCB, really maybe 4 components that are actually mounted onto this, plus the battery terminals, and then just the little screen sits on top, and that's it. So actually really nice and simple, which explains why this is quite cheap, but also shows that the modern marvels of engineering these days, and especially manufacturing, all this small little stuff can just be manufactured so precisely and so mass produced that it costs so cheap, yet is actually quite precise. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll leave it there for this one. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, and if you want to see more of this sort of stuff, taking random gadgets apart, then do consider subscribing. Awesome. Have a great day. Thanks.